Broadcasting live, this is KMA Talk Radio, life, liberty, and the pursuit of fine cigars. With your hosts, Honest Abe and Adam K. the Brewmeister. Listen to the show anywhere in the free world at KMATalkRadio.com.
I like to smoke them like Sir Winston Churchill, like John Kennedy, yeah. Remember Coach Red Auerbach, smoked up for victory, yeah. Well, you can take my wife, you can take my car, but you can't take my big cigar. My cigar.
Ladies and gentlemen, loyal listeners, libertarians, lovers of the leaf, everyone out there in Radio Land, welcome back to, well, the second attempt of KMA Talk Radio to try and get it right on this lovely Memorial Day weekend. I am Adam K. the Brewmeister. Thank you once again for joining us on the Wash Your Hands and Don't Touch Your Face edition of KMA Talk Radio. We hope you're all out there being safe and enjoying yourselves and social distancing, well, from people that look a little grimy. And with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Honest Abe.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. And, of course, Paul, the producer.
Oh, man. I take the advice of our tech expert because, you know, he knows better than I do. And he said, always install the updates for this system. And apparently when we installed the updates, you have to, like, reinstall an audio driver for this system. So I'm just going to leave it alone from now on. I don't care about updates, and then I won't get yelled at anymore.
I don't know why you're always messing up, dude.
I don't know why you don't. I don't know why you don't plan ahead and look for updates.
Listen to me. I do. I have. I literally did do that, and for some reason it didn't work one time. I don't know. Listen, I have no defense.
Paul, you have one job, Paul. One job. Produce the show and get us on eCam. And you can't do that.
Don't give away our secrets and tell us what service we use.
No comment.
Oh, and of course now Adam goes away.
So, Paul, are you still mostly at home lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone like to parks. We started going in our pool here, but work-wise, I'm still at home, working every single day from home. It's really wearing on us. I mean, we have this is actually a huge bone of contention in my house right now because we have the baby's christening at the end of June, but it's up on Long Island where all my family is and where my uncle, who's a priest, is, and we sent invites to everyone saying, listen, we're planning on having it right now. You know, if things change, if things don't change, or things get worse, we're not going to have it. So we'll just let everybody know. It's only like 40 people that we're inviting. And my sister is a transplant recipient, so she's super high risk. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we thought about it, but I guess we didn't really think about it. And now my brother has been all over me all day today. He's like, there's no way she's going. And I'm like, well, she'll wear a mask, she'll wear a face shield like she's done when she's gone out, wear rubber gloves. We go to the christening, and he's like, it's not going to happen. She's not going back to work until at least September, if that.
Jesus, wow.
Up on Long Island, it's still not better. Suffolk County especially is still being hit pretty hard, I guess. So where things are opening here, they're planning on reopening things, I think, next week, but maybe June 1st, whenever that is. But apparently it's still a major cause for concern up there. But at some point we have to live our lives, right? But my sister's the godmother, so it would be hard to do it without her there or with her Skyped or something like that. So we're going to have to take that into consideration. So it's just stuff you never thought about before, you know?
What about your day-to-day living here? Like, I mean, you guys going out for meals? Or we went for lunch yesterday.
You did?
Yeah, me and my operations guy, we went to a faux place we love right around the corner here.
Yeah, I know it. Yep.
We sat down, we had lunch. It was, I mean, are you guys still avoiding all that?
We haven't gone out. We have a newborn, so even though they say it doesn't really affect kids, there's still news now that it could and this and that. The doctor said, just like with any baby, you should limit exposure to them, for the first 4 to 6 months. Obviously, it's a little bit different now because we're really limiting his exposure. We have gone to a friend's house that has a new baby as well, and we had dinner with them, maskless. So we did that.
Oh. I'd like to think you were going maskless if you were having dinner.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to have dinner with a mask on.
Yeah, we did do that, but we not really, Abe. We've gotten takeout a couple times, but then it's the whole procedure still. I don't know if you're still, take everything out, put it on. You're not doing any of that?
I mean, look, we're wiping stuff down from the grocery stores or packages, basically, but like I'm not putting stuff in the oven like I was when I first.
See, I never did that. I just take it out of that container, put it on a regular glass,
well,
and then
because
throw
I'm
out
diligent.
everything.
If you're going to do it, you do it, right? I mean, stuff comes in. There's no better way to disinfect it than to bake it for 30 minutes at 150 degrees, But
Right.
I mean, my whole outlook on it's just changed at this point.
I mean, we had sushi the other night for the first time since this whole thing.
Why? Because you weren't getting food delivery?
No, it's because I was thinking that, at least the other foods cooked. Sushi, I was still a little iffy on, because it's raw, obviously, or at least what I eat is raw, not necessarily what my wife eats. But so I was a little nervous about that. With the other food, you can justify it that it's been cooked, and they usually don't touch it after it's cooked,
Are you afraid for yourself at this point?
No, not at all. If I get it, I get it. I know I'll be fine, and if I'm not, I'm not. I'm more concerned for the new baby. The pediatrician said, she's like, there's statistics that say they do well with it. There's some news that says they don't do well with it. But she said, you should be extra cautious with a 7-week-old.
I'm to the point where I just don't think any statistics really hold much merit, right? Or any data. It's just
but that's scary then, because if they're telling you it's fine with kids.
I just come to the point where I'm just not going to live my life in fear. I'm going to try to live smart, right? There's a way. I get to the point where living smart is better than living in fear. So
I agree.
We take cautions. We take precautions. My wife started going back to her Pilates class.
Okay.
I went to I go to a stretch zone, and I did it right before the Great Smoke, and I love it. I swear by stretching. So
wait, what is stretch zone?
Stretch zone is awesome, man. In fact, I may never get a massage again, right?
What?
It's basically they stretch you out in ways you can't, you can't physically stretch yourself in certain areas, right? So you sit at a table and you have a 30-minute or a 60-minute session, and they stretch you out. And I did it this year because I heard a lot about it before the Great Smoke because I have sciatica. So every year during the Great Smoke, like 2 hours in the event, and my thigh is like on fire.
I remember from years past, yeah.
I didn't have a problem this year. I swear by it. I think stretching is the key to longevity.
Listen, when we get off the air, send me that information. I have a pinched nerve for the last 2 months, and I've been too nervous to go to the doctor.
They had a buy a big promo for Stretch Zone, but they had a buy one get one free yesterday and the day before. So call them up and see if they'll give it to you.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah. So I've been this quarantine killed me. Everything stiffened up.
Yeah.
Right. And I lost all that hard work, even though I did try to do some at home. It's just not the same. I mean, they strap you down on a table and tie you in, so your body.
Do they turn you upside down to do that?
No. Like, you're lying flat like on a table.
Because I've been doing pull-ups because I feel like that helps, and then hanging a little bit after the pull-ups. Like once I do 5, but.
I was about to say, how many pull-ups can you actually do, Paul?
5 more than me.
5. I do 5 curl pull-ups and 4 like I don't know what this is called.
Yeah.
Like this, but just what I used to do in high school because I found my old, thing that goes on the door hang. So during the day, instead of like getting pissed off when I have to get away from the computer or have to get away from the kids, I go in this room, I do a couple pull-ups, and then I feel better. So I've been trying to do stuff like that to help mentally as well as physically.
So the reason why I bought Stretch Zone is it's just nice to see society getting back, right? I mean, look, it's a different way. My wife's classes. They have less machines and the women are more spread out. Even at Stretch Zone, they've taken like 2 of the stations out, so the remaining ones are further apart. And now they have allotted a 15-minute interval in between every appointment so they can completely disinfect and wipe down the station. Because just at some point you got to get back to living.
That's
right?
That's my argument. Yeah, that's why we want to do the christening still.
You got to get back to living. You just can't be stupid. And we talked about this a little bit last week. I just don't know why the world is just so like people can't die. People are dying every day.
Yeah.
For multitudes of reasons, right? And I ain't saying we got to be stupid, but got to go out and start living, focus in certain areas, but this whole country shut down across the board, everywhere. Now looking back, and look, I'm not complaining because I don't believe you can play Monday morning quarterback, right? I was a victim of it myself. I didn't know, do I open the stores? Do I close the stores? You know, Tanya and I actually had conversations about this before we were shut down and debating about it. So, I mean, you can't just play Monday morning quarterback. You know, you made your call, you live with it, and then you move forward and you adjust. So that's the point where I'm at with the whole thing.
Well, here's an interesting question I came up with this week about the whole thing is this the end of children's summer sleepaway camps?
For this
No, they
summer,
just reopened them.
I mean, well, for this
No
summer,
way.
well, my friend said their kids aren't going this year. So for this summer, I think it's going to be, you know, they may open. I don't know if people are going to be sending their kids out there. But
if they miss an entire summer, how do they recover is my question. Because, like, the entire idea of, like, the whole Meatballs, you know, the film, that whole summer, Paul's familiar with this because he's from New York, and that's a big New York thing where people send their kids.
Such an odd concern for someone with no kids and friends.
It's also not necessarily a New York thing. On Long Island, it's more of like a heritage thing. A lot of Jewish people, it's like part of their kids' upbringing.
I get it, but that's totally not anywhere in Adam's universe.
No, I don't know why it is.
How that came out of him. I mean, I might expect you to have this conversation, Paul, but Adam is odd.
It was a random thought I had about stuff that's not going to be able to recover.
Wow.
That was one of the things I was thinking about.
To your mind, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was watching a random movie and I was like, wait, are camps no longer going to be a thing? Can they recover from all of this?
Well, I don't know because Stephanie said that that Axel's swim class is now starting next week. They're limiting the number of kids in a class to 5, I think. The instructor will be wearing a face shield the whole time. They added new UV filtration as well as chlorine, and they acid washed the entire place. They got rid of all the changing rooms, so you have to bring your kid in their suit and bring them out in their suit. So we're comfortable with him going back. At this point. I mean, he needs it because it's activity that he needs. He needs that social activity. We'll just be careful about it. And doctors are saying that pools are okay. That's why pools in Florida here, at least, or local, community pools are opening. So
did they open your community pool?
All of our community pools are open now. One of them was open a week ago, and now all 4 of them are open. Because there's a little one at the end of our block that nobody goes to that we always go to.
Our community had a big problem because in order to use it, the bathrooms have to be sanitized on a schedule, and it ended up being a big problem. But they just passed it now, where they're going to do it Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, which we don't care about.
I didn't even think of that.
We don't care. Yeah, there's certain things for liability reasons, right? There's certain things that you have to kind of maintain so people in your own residence don't sue you, right? So the board's been very hesitant about opening them up, and we have our own pool, so I don't care about the pool. But my daughters take tennis lessons, and we use the tennis courts, and the tennis courts are closed with the pools, which I find amazing because it's definitely not a contact sport, right? Yeah. So they just opened up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So starting this coming Friday, after Memorial Day, the kids are going to have lessons on Fridays and Saturdays at least.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff I think we're going to do. Stephanie and I arranged for Kona Ice to come to our community to tomorrow at 4:00 to give out some ices to people, and then eventually hopefully people will show up and social distance and that kind of thing. But even the HOA president was like, I don't know if we should do this. And I'm like, we can't live without this kind of stuff anymore. We live in a community like this because we used to do stuff like this. Every other weekend there was something going on here at the clubhouse for the whole, all the families and whatnot. This will be outside. It'll be safe. So are you wearing a mask when you go out, Adam? Because I assume that Abe is still, but it
depends where I go. I didn't wear a mask when I had lunch. But if I go into a place of business that requires me to wear a mask, I put one on. I don't make obviously you're bringing this up because of my post the other day.
Yeah,
it's just one of these things. Look, society, and I don't want to get in depth to it because we've got a great guest and I want to get into it, get her on. Yeah. But society has just become uncivil, man. Nobody really just cares anymore. And it's the sanctimonious positioning of look, I don't agree with that. And it's the end of the world. I mean, Terrence Riley made the comment, well, if they want me to wear a mask, I'm just not going to frequent that business and go somewhere else. So yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. My time is more valuable than for me to get in my car and stop shopping around for who's going to let me walk in with or without a mask. I put the mask on, I go in, I get what I need, I get out, and I go home. I take the mask off as soon as I get in the car. I mean, is it really, have we become a world where we just can't accommodate anything anymore? Like something simple like, okay, look, I don't believe in it. I don't think the mask is protecting me for anything. But you want to know what? If that place of business makes them feel better or makes their employees feel better or they feel it makes their other customers feel better, I can accommodate that for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm in the store. And I'm seeing all the, and what drove that is because I've been seeing a lot of these posts lately, and one ended up being from somebody I know, one of our like customers and friends for a long time. Big scene in outside. He says, I just canceled my membership after 25 years because they're making me wear a mask.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's just getting to the point where, man,
Why don't they want to wear a mask, though? Like, it's a selfish thing? Like, I don't care, so I'm not...
Most of the arguments I've seen is like a civil liberties thing. They can't tell me what to do. They can't force me what to do. I mean, like you think it was something major, man. Just put the mask on.
Well, take that same example and go ahead and yell bomb on an airplane and see what happens to you. It's just, that's a ridiculous... It's for safety reasons. It's not quieting you or shutting up your opinion. I don't know. When we go to the grocery store, we wear masks still. Maybe it makes us feel a little bit safer, but I understand, the way I understand it, it really doesn't do much for us.
Oh,
it's really more for other people.
It's totally not for my safety whatsoever when I put it on.
Yeah.
Not even a slight.
No. It's just for the greater good is basically what I'm there for.
Let me end this conversation here because we've already spent about 20-some minutes, and one of my dearest friends and amazing people we got on the show, we had her scheduled right before the shutdown, right? She was going to come on, then Clear Channel basically closed their doors to any outside people to come in and do their shows and work, so we got kicked out of the studio. Then we tried to reschedule it in one of our stores a couple weeks later. Then the stores closed. But finally, let's introduce this guest because I've been waiting for this now for over a month.
Adam.
Tanya Borysiewicz, Vice President of Corona Cigars, is our guest today. Tanya, thank you for joining us and being here live from the Sand Lake store with, of course, the lovely backdrop behind you. I love the backdrop.
Of course you do.
And, of course, if any of our listeners don't know, they should wish you a happy birthday because yesterday was your birthday. But, Tanya, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. You're very, very brave.
Oh, you're very brave. No, we're not brave. We're not brave. And by the way, I do have to say, and I'm going to say it because I know you publicly put it out there, so it's no secret. Amazing for 50, my dear. You look stunning.
51.
No, 50 was last year.
50 was last year.
Oh, my God. That's right.
Wow, 51. I never would have guessed that.
Smoking cigars, keep drinking whiskey, and you could look as good as me.
Wow.
You know what? Yes, a lady after my own heart. Yes. Cigars, whiskey, that's all you need.
All right, relax.
Are you smoking a Davidoff FSG?
I am smoking a Davidoff Tampa edition. So it has FSG inside it.
Got it.
That's half ice FSG.
I don't know. But yeah, I got my FSG this morning.
This is real mild. I like mild cigars, and this one's real mild. Mm-hmm.
So, Tanya, there's a lot of people who are big fans of Corona Cigar Company and everything you guys do and FSG, but there's a lot of people who aren't that familiar with it, and more so aren't that familiar with you. And I want to kind of walk them a little bit through the life of Tanya Borysiewicz. What was your maiden name back then?
Baker.
So Tanya Baker. So obviously I can hear the staunch Southern accent that you have. So I know that you're from Scotland. You were born in Scotland, and how was life growing up in Scotland, and how did you end up here in the States?
Life growing up in Scotland was, I guess the earlier half was pretty rough, and then the later half was okay. And I moved here when I was 30.
Oh, okay.
So. Life in Scotland's beautiful. They don't have really good weather, and then, they tend to do things a lot sooner. So at 16, you can get married in Scotland. So a lot of my friends were getting married, having babies, things like that.
At 16?
At 16, yeah. And I was working and traveling. And so by the time I stopped, traveling and kind of shook my head. They were already like mothers and things like that. And I was still single. So I was like an old maid at 26. You know, everybody else was already married, and you know, the only other people available were either divorced or psychopaths. And so, you know, I was kind of like thinking, okay, where's my children? Where's my husband? And then I came to Orlando to visit a good friend of mine, Jeanette. And I realised here everybody does things kind of slower.
Right.
You know, I came here and I still felt young again. And so that's when I decided I'm immigrating and I'm moving. And I moved here. My father is American, so it was a bit easier.
So you actually just came here on a trip and then decided to move.
Well, yeah, I have my aunt used to stay. Well, she stayed in Vallejo, California, and so I stayed there for a while when I was younger. I went to stay with her for a few months, so I kind of had an idea of what life in the US was like versus life in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Scotland's beautiful, but you definitely have to work a lot harder to get what you want than what you do here in the United States.
I mean, there's definitely less opportunity in other parts of the world. So yeah, sometimes it's a lot harder. Did you do you go back and visit?
All the time, yeah. That's where all my lovely whiskey comes from. So I go back about 2-3 times a year, and Jeff and the boys, we go back quite a bit. I still have family there. I've got 2 brothers, a sister, and a whole bunch of great friends there as well.
Good for you.
So I go back a lot.
So,
yeah.
Do you have a favorite Scotch or just a favorite whiskey in general?
I like peaty whiskies. So I like whiskies, from like Islay, like, anything peaty.
Oh, so we're going like Lafroig, Lagavulin.
Lafroig is my favorite. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I don't want people getting mad at me.
Adam, would you like
Lafroig is my favorite.
Would you like to segue from Tanya's biography into liquor right now, or?
Well, she brought up whiskey.
Just curious.
And she was talking about it.
I don't think we need my biography. That was it. I moved here. I immigrated in the year 2000, and I met Jeff in 2001.
Were you into cigars already? Have you already had a cigar experience prior to meeting Jeff?
Prior to meeting Jeff, I'd had cigars, but in my city of Glasgow, where I come from, I only remember there ever being one cigar store in the city centre, and we don't really have the opportunity to smoke a lot of cigars. Most people smoke cigarettes, and at best maybe like a Hamlet. I really didn't know anybody. I knew one friend who smoked premium cigars, but other than that, I wasn't around a lot of people who smoked cigars.
So you met Jeff early on in his career, and obviously, you were raising the family. At what point did you? What's the first cigar experience you remember that you can recall? That you recall?
Well, the first cigar experience was with my friend Raja, who smoked cigars in Glasgow, and I'd go to his office and he had cigars, and I'd smoke a cigar there. So I'd smoked cigars prior to coming.
Right.
And he mostly would have like Cuban cigars. And then when I came, I didn't even realise the cigar shop that Jeff had. It was right next door to my friend's restaurant. And then I used to walk past it and I never knew because it was like dark windows. And so then I was quite excited to hear that there was a cigar shop there. And I've always been in retail since I was 14 years old. I've been working in shops, various shops. And so when I met Jeff, it was perfect because Jeff was, talking about he'd always wanted to do this catalogue company. And he initially opened his first store as a storage place to give him somewhere to send his cigars from. And then he had like a little Casio register in there. And then my background being retail, then both of us got together and, it became what it is. And so primarily I still take to do with, the everyday running of the shops and now the warehouse and stuff like that. He's kind of moved on to
being a
his
farmer.
Ranch. Yeah.
He loves it. He
growing
loves
the tobacco,
being a farmer. Yeah.
Riding a tractor. So he's like kind of like great, I mean, he still takes to do with it, of course, he's does a lot, but he definitely seems to prefer riding a tractor to sitting in a chair all day.
He loves being out there. I call him all the time, and he's like he's out there a lot. Now, were you like into getting involved in the business early on? Because you have two boys, so you were raising children, whatever. Or did there just become a point where you really started to migrate towards getting more involved in the business, or was that just always from the onset?
From day one, I was involved.
Wow.
As soon as I met Jeff, he quickly, had me doing stuff for his shop and then the upcoming shop, which is the one now. And so even before this was made, I was in here and helped design a lot of stuff and placement and stuff like that. So I was in it before I had the children, and I've never stopped. I literally went into labour while working twice.
Wow,
Really?
That's awesome.
I was laughing at Paul saying, he's protecting his child and he's not going out for 7 weeks and all that. My son Boris was at a cigar party at 10 days old, with Marvin in Miami. I took him there 10 days old and he had him with me. I had to work and I had to take my kid. Then at 3 months old, he was at Rocky Patel's 40th birthday party. There's all these adults and there's like a high chair at the end of the table. So both my boys have grown up in the industry. Every shop that I've opened has always had a family room, a room where I could go with the kids. It was smoke-free and it was a quiet place, but they've always been part of it. So I remember opening up the Heathrow store, and at that time they brought out baby monitors with the video on them. And so that was like on my side. So I'd be standing like talking to customers, and then, the baby would be crying. I'd say, just a minute, run upstairs and, make sure the baby was okay. Baby was never alone, but, so they've always been in the shop, but somewhere where you can't see them, in a room or whatever. I don't bring them onto the floor as such. So I've never really stopped working. So.
No, that's amazing. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know how long we've been friends. And it was actually you guys that taught us early on when Brandy, my wife, first got pregnant. Because, our concern was, we travel, we do business. And it was you guys that basically kind of told us, take him with you. Because you guys at that time were taking Boris everywhere.
And take him everywhere.
You're like,
everywhere.
just take him with you. You'll figure
every single show.
Yep.
Everything.
Like,
he was actually on the floor of the IPCPR. He was about maybe 3. And your friend Sal, remember Sal?
I have that picture.
Yeah, he was on the floor because I had no babysitter. I had to be on the convention floor.
And kids were not allowed on the convention floor.
No, you had to be 18.
Yeah.
And I put him in his stroller and I walked in there like he was supposed to be there. I just marched on in with my stroller. And then I saw Sal, and Sal was like, I said, my babysitter never turned up. And he said, give me the baby. And he took the baby and he put him in his he had the
go-around.
Thing.
The little go-arounds, yeah.
And then Avo saw him, and of course Avo's his godfather. And so Avo's saying, bring me the baby. So there's Avo in the middle of the trade show holding my baby. And of course this crowd starts, forming and taking photographs and all this kind of stuff. And actually that made it to, I think they put that photograph inside the Tobacconist magazine with Avo and Boris in the middle of the trade show. And there must have been about maybe an hour later, maybe an hour and a half, I don't know. And someone realised that this was a baby. I was like, hey, Mom, you're not supposed to have your baby here. But by that time, I got done what I had to get done. So I was like, okay, bye.
Oh, perfect timing.
I do what I have to do. You've got to do what you've got to do.
Yeah,
How many kids do you have now, Tanya? You have 4 or 3?
16. No, I have 2.
Oh, you have 2. Okay.
2 boys.
So do you take the boys everywhere with you now, or when they how far apart are they? Because I'm in that same predicament now. That Abe's like, yeah, just take them with you, but it's hard when you have they're
passing
so
on the
close
good
together.
advice.
Mm-hmm.
I take them everywhere. In fact, about 2.5, 3 months of the year, Jeff and I travel in an RV with the children. He takes time off and we just travel, everywhere with them. Everywhere. It's like if we can't travel with them, we don't go. So every show, whether it's the TA, whether it's the PCA, whatever it is, everyone knows my children.
Right.
And I encourage other people, and to take their children as well.
We did that when we had 1, because we like that idea. It's the same thing. We brought him everywhere. But with 2, I just see it getting more and more complicated. But I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Well, they say 1's an accessory. And choose a family, you know. And so, yeah, it does, you know, and it's, of course, you know, not all children have the same personality,
Right.
right?
Oh.
And so, you know, some kids, you know, Boris was like battery operated. That kid, I mean, I'm talking about, I remember being over at Morton's, being at a meeting, and I was literally breastfeeding my kid under the tablecloth while I'm in the middle of this meeting. I just had to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And people didn't even know my child was there, you know, because you just adapt and just do what you've got to do. I've never made a big deal of it. You know, I just go along with it. You know, it's no big deal. And both of them are, you know, healthy children. You know,
Tanya was absolutely right. You figure it out. You
Yeah.
figure it out and you have fun. We love traveling everywhere with the kids. Now you mentioned you were in retail for most of your life. What was your most favorite job that you had in retail prior to obviously what you do now?
Well, I worked for this video company, and that was probably the favourite thing I did, because I got to kind of do security and kind of go into these shops and find out, you know, what was the problems in the shop.
Oh, like a
And work
secret
them out.
shopper.
Yes.
Like a secret
and
shopper.
So that was kind of
Oh.
cool. You know, that was probably a really cool thing to do.
Wow.
But, you know, I adapt to anything. Whatever it is I do, I enjoy doing it. I don't care what it is. And I've had lots and lots of jobs, you know, and I just do what I'm going to do. You know, originally when I started off doing civil engineering, and I used to work with, it was me and about 50 boys, and I was the first female they ever hired. And that's where I
Wow.
started doing my apprenticeship. But back then it was a different world. You know, you were treated totally different when you were a female. You know, one minute you've got someone opening the door for you, and then the next minute they're saying, well, you know, lift up those 2 pallets because you're getting paid the same as us. And, you know, and it's definitely, you know, you realise that women and men are totally different. You know, you think you can be as strong as a man and everything else, but you're just not built that way. You know, so I soon learned it wasn't a place for me.
I've always argued the point that we're supposed to be different. I don't know why everybody makes such a big deal about it.
I think so too. I enjoy being a female.
We were supposed to be different. Anybody who thinks otherwise, there's something wrong there, man. No, we're not all supposed to be the same. But
Yep.
world's a
Well,
funny
along
place.
those lines, because Tanya and I had discussed this before the first time she was supposed to be on, before they shut down our studios. But along those lines, Tanya, we're skipping ahead a little bit from what we want to talk about, because we want to get into really the nuts and bolts about what you do for the company. But speaking of females in the workplace and your experiences and how you went from a male-centric environment kind of to another male-centric environment, not kind of, to another male-centric environment, how do you feel women are represented in the cigar industry?
Ooh.
Well, you know, there's different parts of the industry. Okay, so you actually have females working where they're in shops, or they're, you know, attending trade shows, or they're part of, you know, committees.
Yeah.
And then you have these girls, you know, with assets that are doing like a lot of these kind of shows where they're like standing there, I don't know, in a bikini or whatever, and saying, oh, this is my favorite cigar.
Right.
Okay, so there's different parts. And so as far as like running a store or being involved, there's not many of them.
There's
the women
not.
that are in this, they're great. You know, I've got quite a lot of friends. I mean, when I came in here, the first parent that I was introduced to was Janine Perdomo, and she used to have her 2 children, and she used to have her 2 children everywhere she went. And so she said to me, you know, I can do it. And that's where I got my, you know, my big boots on and said, well, if I want to be a mother, I can still do it. But yeah, there's different kind of females. But I think it is quite hard. Not as hard as it used to be, but it is quite hard having people take you serious when you're a female in this industry.
Right.
You know?
So you're making that distinction between like a woman like you that is literally running a business and actually in the industry, not necessarily just like
on the
a
peripheral.
model or
on the peripheral.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And so more and more, I mean, you know yourself, every other week someone's got a new video store and a new video chat thing, or they've got a new Instagram, and you know, and they stick the word cigar in there. I mean, I think predominantly because it is a male orientated business, it's very easy for a female to, you know, start a new blog, especially if she looks good and especially if she's got those assets, and she'll get a lot of followers like this because you guys are kind of weak. And so,
Well, you know what? Hold on. Let me just kind of summarize a little bit of the psychology on the male end of this, right? So I went to a Catholic high school, which is all boys. It's not so much weak. It's when you're deprived of something that's normal, right, on a regular basis. Because like we're at school all day, we're around dudes, and the only females you're looking at is a nun, right? So the random nun who's walking down, and let me just tell you something. If that nun was like good looking and hot, that was a problem, right? You got teenage boys. So, when you're deprived, so in the cigar community for the longest time, there weren't women involved. There weren't. Look, I mean, our businesses evolved in these bars and lounges, but you guys were a big social setting from your first store. My older stores were these little traditional, like old school, 9 leather chairs and a bunch of old guys sitting around smoking, which is intimidating just to women walking in, right? More or less socializing. So, it's like adding a drop of water when you're in the desert. So that's why it's also weak, because when you're in this lifestyle for many, many, many years, there wasn't female interaction. So yeah, that's why it's become so easy. But yeah, I guess we are weak. All that led to where I guess we're.
I was going to say I didn't go to Catholic high school. I'm still weak.
No, but like I'm just telling you, like, I mean, look, because I went to public schools up until high school, right? So I woke up every day. You did your hair. You tried to make yourself look good before you went to school. You interacted with girls all day. It wasn't really that big of a deal. Then you go to high school, man. Guys roll out of bed, didn't even wash their face, go to class. Nobody cared. Then a girl would walk in or something, or the cheerleaders would come to practice for the football games. Dude, it's like every guy acted like he never seen a girl in his whole life, right? The whole place was like shut down. So it's when you're deprived of something. But I've always been a big proponent of any of the females in this industry. I think it's awesome. I think it's natural, and mostly because as a retailer for many, many years, I would see them on the fringe a lot. I even sensed their uncomfortableness, right? You could tell this was a passion that they were into, and this was a hobby they were into, but they were just so afraid to break the ice and and today we have settings where honestly it's completely comfortable. There might even be a lot of times where in our places the women outnumber the men, especially with the bar setting now in the shop.
Well, here, yes.
Yeah, so
I have, now this is only by chance, but I have some great females. I have, Dalen, who's in charge of my graphic arts. I have Kim, who's in charge of my warehouse. I have Sonali, who's in charge of the store. I have Carla, who's in charge of the bars. I have Amy, who runs the whole back of the shop. I have so many strong females. Now, that wasn't by choice, that was by chance, because these females came in and they just did a better job than the people around about them.
Do you feel,
and that's so,
do you feel that it was possible that they were more comfortable because I'm assuming you were doing the hiring? Because we've had, if I'm including the back of the house, right? 1, 2, I've had 2 women who are currently working the back of the house, and on the floor in my whole career, I think we've had 3 women work the floor. I don't know if they're intimidated. We just don't get a lot of action. Do you think it's because either they know who you are, they know there's a woman involved, that they feel more comfortable?
It's for sure. When we have females, I actually hire all the females, or I'm part of it. Now we've got such a big staff, especially when it comes to bartenders, that a lot of the bartenders get hired without me. But it's all based on the same thing. It all starts with zero tolerance. And if you give them the power to know what they're allowed to do and what they're allowed to take, there's no way any of my females are going to have a guest or a colleague who's going to treat them any different than what they are. And so they take that power and they use it. Okay, I don't have, my girls aren't in here for anything other than to do their job. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have anybody treating them different. If I've got a girl selling cigars or a guy, they get treated the exact same. We don't expect any less of them. And so I give them that power when they come through that door. And I tell them, listen, you're not here to be treated a certain way. You're not here to, have people whistle at you or look at you or touch you or anything like that. Now, I've seen, I was watching a video last night, in fact, with some of my customers, and they were showing me a cigar shop down by UAB on the water, where they had a really good-looking female, and her job all day was to light cigars. But what she did was she would take the customer's cigar, put it in her mouth, light it, and then sexually, like, kind of hand it over to them. And I thought, are you kidding me? That's wrong in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Right, but I guess, and I don't know, I mean, you know, so if you're going to treat people different, then expect, you know, different results.
There's a place in Manhattan that used to do that I used to go to. It was weird. But it doesn't matter what the girl looks like. I don't want her putting her mouth on my cigar. I don't know who she is.
I know, but it just amazes me that the men who were smoking these cigars thought that was okay.
Yeah. Well,
you know, I mean, why is it okay?
Yeah.
You know, and why do you even want that kind of service?
That is not okay. No part of that is okay.
I know. Well, I don't know, you know, but so it's just.
I'm pretty sure those days are over.
Yeah, now.
I hope they're over. You know, but
I'd like to hope so.
You know? And then the same when you walk through our cigar events, right? You never see these like buff-looking guys standing there. It's all these really, you know, sexy females that are standing there with the cigars and stuff like that. You know, so they do. You know, the cigar industry still sees a female a certain way. You know, and I mean, even me. Why is it no one knows who I am? Well, because I've got such a strong partner in Jeff, and it's all, you know, Jeff, which is good. He's absolutely fabulous, and I'm okay being where I am. But a lot of it's to do with the fact that I'm a female. I'm always introduced as, this is Jeff's wife. Never, oh, this is the vice president of Corona Cigar Company.
Right,
it's always, this is Jeff, and this is, what's your name? Oh, yeah, this is Jeff's wife. You know, and I'm standing there juggling the balls. But, you know, I'll literally
I will say this, though, Tanya, to that point, I will say this. The industry people, especially the manufacturers, know and respect you very much, because we got a lot of responses. I got personally a lot of text messages and emails from people saying that they were happy that you were finally going to be on. And even guys like Saka were I mean, he was joking a little bit, but he was like, Abe, it really is about friggin' time that you get her on the show. Like they all seem to have great things to say about you, and they know who you are and respect the job that you do.
They've gotten to work with her. From. They've gotten to work with her and know her over the last
if you work with me, or if you come and you know, like a lot of people, they'll invite Jeff for dinner, and then they'll see me as an afterthought. And then once we're sat down and they kind of realise, you know, I kind of know something, then they're a bit more respectful of my part of Corona Cigar. But other than that, you know, it's still quite Jeff's wife.
You know what? In some defense of them, I will say this was one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on our show, Tanya. I mean, look, we were very, very, like, we've known each other for a very, very long time. And even as friends, and you and my wife probably talk a lot more often than you and I do, but I really didn't know the depth of your involvement in the company. You know, I mean, I knew you're involved and I know you talk, but I mean, obviously in us talking in the last 2 or 3 months more since I've asked you to be on, and I've kind of talked to you on the phone and discussed it. I didn't even know how deeply you were involved in the day-to-day runnings of the company. And that's something that I even just like learned recently, because when we're interacting, typically it's on a social level. So we're not like doing business together or whatever. So that's never been like a focus when and if we've ever gotten together. But no, I mean, basically you're kind of running the retail end of this whole empire, right? I mean, you're
I do. You know, Jeff and I do 2 totally different jobs.
Yeah.
You know, he does his part, I do my part, and we work together great as a partnership. You know, but yeah, if you work here, you definitely know who I am. If you're selling me cigars, you might not know who I am. You know, I don't buy cigars. I'm not a buyer. Okay, so when I come to the trade shows, I'm looking for different ways of making my business better, as opposed to, well, what's the newest cigar? You know, if you come and you try and buy a cigar off me, you've got no luck, because that part of it is not my interest. I'm not interested in, you know, what cigars taste like. You know, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in, you know, once the cigar's on the shelf, how it looks and how it sells. But I'm not interested in how they get to the shelf. You're going to have H, you're going to have Angel, you're going to have Matt, you're going to have Tommy. You're going to have those guys that go and they buy the cigars along with Jeff, and, you know, they decide what's going in here. So on that same basis, a lot of the reps might not even know who I am until they're in the shop, you know. And that's another thing that'll happen. You know, you have a rep come in to the store, and they'll give the guy cigars, and then they'll look at me and they'll say, do you want one? Do you smoke them? You know, because they assume, you know, and I'm like, you know, like, so,
Well,
you know, but once they get to know, then it's fine.
They
You know,
say
and I
that to
really have
me
no
when they
problem
come
with
on the. They say that to me when they come on the show. They're like, "Do you actually want one? You want to smoke one?" Or...
Yeah. So I mean, but I'm absolutely okay with being in the position that I'm in, you know, because at the end of the day, I work one-on-one with the customers, and that's the most important part of retail is the customers. Okay, so I make sure that every single customer has the best experience they can have, and I really enjoy that part of it, you know. So I'm okay.
I think that's awesome that you two could work together so well because that's really hard.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really is. And I think part of it is that they're both completely aware of what each other's roles are, and I think that's when it works
Yep.
best, right? There's not a blending of roles. Jeff's not gonna, get involved where Tanya's domain, and she knows perfectly well what Jeff's doing. Because I'm gonna tell you, I love my wife. You know how much I love my wife, and I was caught one time many, many years ago. I think when we only had 3 locations or 2 locations at a time, but I had one guy we knew was leaving, and then I had 2 guys who lived together, who were roommates, who both were going to move out of state and got opportunities, and they didn't even tell each other. Like they both came to me. Adams, remember
Yeah, they didn't talk.
you were working for us at the time, right? Ben and
Ben and Andrew.
Yeah. They both came to me. Yeah, I got to put my 2 weeks. Where I'm like, you're both going, and they're like, oh.
No.
I mean, like you didn't know. So like I was like short stand. It's really like just blindsided, and it got to the point where my wife, Brandy, God bless her, she quit her job doing hair. My wife's a professional, hairstylist and colorist, and she's very good at what she does. And she worked in the shop with me like for I think it was like 2 months before I finally hired somebody or a couple guys and got situated. But wow, that was a rough 2 months. It was a rough 2 months because there was no role definition, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because we this isn't something that was norm for us. My wife was basically, being awesome and trying to help out a bad situation I was in the best she could. But there was a lot of that role thing because, like, the husband, wife, and work and thing, it just got blended, and it was a rough 2 months. So I commend you guys. I think that's awesome.
Tanya, how do you juggle it?
Pardon?
How do you juggle it? Like, how does it work? Like, you see, I mean, I know Jeff's not always in the same spot that you are because you kind of bounce around to all the stores, but like when you are in the same place every day, when you work together, when you guys are in the same location, and then you go home, like, is that taxing on your relationship?
Well, I always tell Jeff, leave your crown at the door.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
get you.
When he's home, he's dad, and and he's my husband, and it's a whole different thing.
You ask him to take out the garbage like anybody else.
Exactly. As far as work goes, when he has his like staff meetings and all the managers get together and they're all doing this, kind of let's get things. I don't even attend them. I don't attend. I say to him, because then we would be talking on top of each other. And so he'll go there and he'll tell, the guys, okay, we're doing this and we're doing that, and we're doing the next thing, right? I might not necessarily agree with everything that he's saying. And so I won't put that out there. So I'll wait until after the meeting. And then my staff will come and tell me, Jeff said this and Jeff said that. Okay. And then, it's a matter of respect and trust.
That's
I
great.
respect and trust that he can do his job, and he kind of respects and trusts that I can do mine. And yeah, we do have kind of, moments where we disagree. We disagree with a lot of things with the running of the stores.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, Jeff and I are different. Jeff's not really a social person. You won't see him hanging out at bars. You don't see him going shopping. I don't think he's been to the mall like 3 times. So his idea of retail and my idea of retail are 2 different things. But Jeff knows what to buy to put in the stores. I know what they should look like. And so we kind of, we have Angel, and we always say Angel is like his wife and my husband. So he's kind of the go-between. And so, Angel will tell him one thing, he'll bring it to me. I'll tell Angel one thing, and then we'll kind of come to a kind of conclusion over it. But as I say, it's all about trust. If, Jeff trusts that I'm not going to do anything that's going to chase away customers or stop sales.
Right.
And I trust the same with him.
I mean, that's just like any other partnership. It's that trust that you have together with the person that you're working with. So
exactly. But for me, whether I'm selling cigars or whether I'm selling, fruit. And I did have a fruit shop when I was younger. So,
Really?
well, yeah, I did have a fruit shop when I was like 24, 25. So, it doesn't matter what it is I'm selling, I'm going to sell it to the same extent. So when I met Jeff had a passion for cigars, but I had a passion for Jeff. And so that's how we work it. So I do whatever I've got to do.
Now, you mentioned events. Earlier, and I'd be remiss not to bring this up. Obviously, you guys have been involved with Drew Estate's Barn Smokers, which is an extremely popular and growing event that's done in multiple cities around the country. And obviously, their Florida one is at one of your barns at the FSG ranch at your farm.
Florida.
Yeah.
It should have been last week, if I'm not mistaken.
It was supposed to be on originally on the 16th of May, I believe, and then it got moved to November. But unfortunately, it has just been cancelled because the company, it's a big company, and they really don't want any liability in case someone gets sick. So they're just being safe for everybody's sake. So they went ahead and have cancelled it, coming up in November.
Now, for some of our listeners who aren't familiar with the Barn Smoker, can you share a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, of course. It's an event run by Drew Estate, Jonathan and Drew Estate. And so what they do is they'll come to the barn, and we'll have about 600 guests up there, and we'll use the barn, and they'll basically use it for promoting. They're promoting, FSG, they're promoting their own products. So it's kind of like they do this big kind of thank you to the people who smoke those products, and they'll bring them up there, they'll feed them, they'll give them a tour of the barn, and they'll show them how cigars are formed from seed to shelf. Mm-hmm. So you have about 4 different people doing tours. They'll break it up into, a couple of hundred people each, and they'll have different speakers. You'll have Jonathan, you'll have Willie Herrera, you'll have Jeff. And so the people just come and get the tour, and then they'll give them a big bag of swag. They'll give them cigar samples, and away they go. And that's what we do.
So in doing this, what's it like working with Jonathan on a regular basis doing these events?
Well, thank goodness I don't have to work with Jonathan. Jonathan's a great friend, but I don't work one-on-one with him. Mm-hmm. I run that when it comes to Florida, because it's my barn, because a lot of the people are my guests, then I kind of take to run the show from the beginning, but I'll say hello to everybody coming in, make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. So while Jeff and Jonathan are up there being superstars, I'm kind of in the back on my Polaris, and I check and everything's okay, and it's the same thing. I mean, actually at the Barn Smoker, a lot of people I was like, driving them around in my Polaris. I've got my Wellington boots and my jeans, and I'm just making sure everybody's okay. So they have no idea who I am. So I'd have kind of people who have like walking sticks and stuff, and I go pick them up in my Polaris and take them to where they have to be. And they're trying to give me like $2 tips and things like that, And they're like, that girl's so good, you should promote her, and
Tanya,
and things like that,
Tanya, have you taken the tips and just said, thank you very much?
I have, because some people got offended.
I know.
I know. Like, no, take it. You look like you need it. And I'm like, And then I had some people give me tips, like they give me we grow these really cool sunflowers up there, because that's where we grow our tobacco, of course. Right. And so we have these sunflowers, and they act like a barricade. So all these insects will go for the flowers before they go for the tobacco.
Right.
And so we try and give, everybody that comes, we'll give them a sunflower. Thank you for that, FSG. Mm. And so, a lot of people gave me flowers as well. They're like, oh, there you go, there's a tip. And, it's really cool, and then, sometimes like at the end, like Jeff or Jonathan will say, bring Tanya up the stage. And then they're kind of looking like, she's here,
I just gave that girl $1. What am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
right.
Dollars coming, but yeah, it's nice. It's nice, and it's always good because you get to actually hear what the people think. They're not going to try and blow smoke up your arse. They're going to tell you exactly how they think about how things are going. And so I still do that. I still kind of like when I go to Tampa store, a lot of the locals know me, but a lot don't. And I'll go over there and just hover around and see what I can listen to. Or else I'll just sit there in the cameras and see if everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. I absolutely check every review that comes in. If we've got a negative review, I'm right on there. I'm like, okay, let's get that fixed.
Right.
Because it really should be as we say, the ultimate cigar experience. And it's my job to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And so that takes up a lot of my time, and I enjoy doing it, but that helps make things go the way they're supposed to go.
Well, the barn smoker is definitely a unique experience, and it's unfortunate that they got canceled this year. We're hopefully next year they'll get it back on there. I mean, there's a lot of guys who throw big cigar events. I mean, we throw our own big event every February, but this is like a completely different format. While ours is a big cigar celebration party, this is actually an opportunity to see what happens on a farm, in the field, talk to the growers, and it's almost kind of doing like a trip without having to leave the country to see a cigar farm, right?
That's why people like it. Before they had the barn smokers, you actually had to go to Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Honduras. So people, the only opportunity they would get is if they flew out the country, because Connecticut grow tobacco, but they don't necessarily do tours.
Right.
So before, you could do like the safari with Jonathan in Nicaragua. You could go to Dominican Republic with like Davidoff or something like that.
Yeah.
But there was nothing really here doing that. So that opportunity now brings more people. People will fly in from all over the States to come to them because they want to see what it's like, but they're either too afraid to go outside the country, or they don't have, the passports or the means or whatever. So the fact that they can do it in America helps a lot. They love it. They absolutely love it.
Absolutely. No, since we're talking about events, you guys also do another big event every year, Cars and Cigars.
We did. Unfortunately, the venue that we used, we can no longer use it. They sold it off. So, it's really hard to find an event where you can smoke cigars, inside a building. And so,
Right.
we're still trying to do a new one, but then we have to start putting tents outside and things like that. So, yes, I mean, maybe we'll use the barn, use that space to do the same kind of thing. Maybe not the cars because it's more tractor orientated. Right. But, yeah, we'll do something else. People keep asking, they go to Abe's thing and they're saying, can we do something local? The thing is that, our company, it's really just Jeff and I, and so, you're trying to balance the shops, the ranches, parenthood, all these different things. So you don't always have the time to do everything. So sometimes it's better just to say, go see Abe, go to this one. Because, you can't do everything all the time.
Yeah, you
have to certainly look into start using our barn a bit more.
Yeah, I would love an awesome barn experience. I mean, we were going to come up there and do KMA once until we found out at the last minute that there was no internet there, just cellular.
There's nothing.
Yeah, well, we didn't know that. We asked before we went out there, and then we found out the last minute.
I talked to Jeff the week before, and I was like, we just want to make sure that the connection speed is okay. He goes, yeah, Verizon's great here. We have great signal. And I was like, wait, hold on. I was like, when you say Verizon, do you mean cell phone service or do you mean like internet? He goes, there's no internet. It's a barn. He got mad at me. I felt bad.
A couple of barns and, and a couple of hens and whatever. There's not a lot up there.
Now, speaking of the FSG farm, right, and the ranch, I have to ask you because I think one of the reasons why Tanya and I always really got along is we're very kind of similar, right? We just speak our mind, right? We just talk. I mean, Jeff and I get along very good, but I've always said that Jeff's like the more diplomatic of the two of us. Yeah. Like when we've sat on boards together, I'm the one that's like a bull and loud and knocking shit over. And Jeff's always got that soothing voice when he's talking to somebody that is just calming, right? But like when you heard that Jeff wanted to grow tobacco and start being a farmer and ranching, what were you thinking at the time? Was it like Green Acres? Were you like Zsa Zsa Gabor or or were you into this farm life and concept? Because
no,
Jeff
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
In it. No. Yeah, Jeff loves it.
No, when I met Jeff and we sit and we kind of talk about where we want to go in life, what's your credit score and all that stuff. No, Jeff said to me, eventually he wants to retire and he wants to, be on a little orange grove and drive his tractor. Because Jeff has always driven tractors. He was like the Florida champion tractor driver, right? So he's always loved that stuff, right? He was in the FFA, he's got the little blue jacket and all that stuff.
I think he told us this, yeah.
Yeah, and so, he said that from when I met him. And so I knew he always had this passion for farming. And so at one point in his life, Jeff had cancer. And thank God, he came through it good. And so, at that point in your life, when you're going through something like that, nothing matters anymore. All you want is to try and grab as much happiness in life as possible. And so this all started with, I'd bought a little, maybe 10 acres. And then the first thing I did was I got him a tractor so that he can go cut grass. And man, he would go up there all day long cutting the grass. And I'd be standing there like, Jeff, get in here. So then what I did was I changed it to a lawnmower that went really fast, like 13 miles an hour, so he can cut that grass quicker. But when I saw how passionate he was about riding that tractor, and so when we got the property where the tobacco farm is now, after about a year or so, we were like, what are we doing with this property? So then he said, I wonder if tobacco will grow here. And I said, that's a great idea. And so that was it. He started, trying to grow it. And I've been supportive ever since. Of course, the first crop, I was out there with my children, with my friends, so we harvested the first crop. Wow. And so, I'm very happy that he has something that he can enjoy doing, and he's very good at it. Everything he touches, he turns to gold, so I'm very supportive. And even now, I was up there the last crop, and I was, it's very good. I was up there, I was picking it, I was actually planting it. I'll do whatever it takes. I still enjoy doing it with him. I don't want to be doing it every day, but so I'm supportive of it, and I'm glad he does it.
Do you think you're going to end up living your older days on a farm?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I like the peace and I like the quiet. I've actually suggested to Jeff to build a house up there. We just bought a new house, but prior to that, I said, let's move up there. It's nice, it's quiet, and he's like, there's not enough restaurants. I'm like, okay. So that's why, where we are here, it's Restaurant Row. I think we've got about 40 restaurants in a 2-mile area. So he loves being able to eat. He likes to eat. And so other than that, I think he would move up there. And he's up there 4 days a week.
How far is it from where you're? So
70 miles.
Oh, really? It's that far?
How far?
Or 70 minutes? 70 minutes?
No. It's only about 35 minutes from our house to the
70
farm.
miles. That's what I said, about 70 miles?
No, it's actually I think it's about the same, about 37 miles away.
Oh, okay.
And then we have a ranch, but the ranch is a wee bit further. That's about an hour away. So when you see him playing with the cows, that's about an hour away from here.
Okay. See, but that's the thing about that concentrated area of Orlando. It's like there's all these restaurants, the theme parks, and then you can literally go out of the city because it's such a widespread city.
Exactly.
20 minutes, 15 minutes, and there's nothing, which is what it was before Disney really came down there. But
there's nothing up there.
I didn't being from New York. I had no idea. I had no idea that there was farmland there. It's a thing that I guess you just don't think about when you think Orlando. But
when I was in New York, I always think about New York City. But when you're traveling on this bus everywhere, New York's the city's nothing. It's all nothing but fields out there. Yeah. Until you get to Canada. It's nice. It's a good lifestyle.
That's why they wanted to be a separate state. Upstate New York wanted to be separate from the city in Long Island for a long time. It's
totally different.
Yeah. Do you go to the farm a lot?
I do. I actually, in my house right now, as you know, Paul, I have 6 chicks.
Yeah, we saw on our last call.
Yeah, and so, we have hens up at there used to be hens up at the farm. But unfortunately, the coyotes and the alligators and the snakes and all these things kind of ate all my hens. Oh. And so I just bought some more chicks, and I actually have them in my house right here in my subdivision. And so I'm bringing a bit of the farm to my house.
When we were talking, Abe, the other day, I had Axel in my lap, and my wife walks over. She goes, "Do I hear chickens or chicks? What do I hear?" And Tanya goes outside and comes in with these 2 baby chicks. Axel lost it. My wife was like, "Oh my God, they're so cute."
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm bringing it because I like all that stuff, prior, I've always been a city girl. Glasgow is like a mini New York. It's a very, fast moving city.
Right.
And so, when I just started going up to the farm, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, there's spiders, there's snakes, there's all this stuff. But then after a moment, you just love it. It's so nice. So it's great. And of course, we have those beautiful cigars coming out of there.
Well, the boys seem to have really taken to it, right? I mean, they every time I watch a video of Jeff, they love being out there.
Well, they love being out there because, again, they can be part of it. You know, they can go and they can, like, pick leaves and they can plant tobacco and they can do all this stuff. You know, my 14-year-old, he's been riding a tractor since he was, like, 10. You know, so because they can be part of it, unlike Corona Cigar, I can't bring them in here. I can't have them sell cigars. I can't have them making drinks. So they love being part of, you know, our business instead of just, you know, standing in the corner. So they've taken to it real well. And I really think that Boris, the older boy, I think he's going to take a bigger hand in it when he's older.
I don't want to deep dive into the farm too much because it's not your area, but I'd be remiss not to say it because there's a lot of cool byproducts you guys have of the ranch too, right? You guys got some honey, you guys going on?
Yeah, well, the honey thing was, we used to have hives, again, because, you know, tobacco has flowers. And so then the neighbour next to us, he had even more hives and he started producing honey. And he came and he said to us, you know, this honey tastes really distinct. I think it's because they use the tobacco flowers.
Wow.
And so it tastes totally different. And so, you know, he gave us some and it really did taste really good. And so then what happened is we said to him, well, okay, we'll buy your honey. He's happy. And now it's FSG honey. And so, yes, we have that and we grow
pumpkins, watermelons,
pineapples.
Yeah.
We've got now all of that only came because the tobacco is kind of seasonal.
Right. You have to
so we had a whole group of people working up there, and we didn't want to let them go at the end of the season. And so then we just come up with all these different things to make them grow, just so they'd still have a job all year round. And so we started just planting things like everything, corn, just to see if it would grow, just to keep them in a job, basically. And then what we do is we would give it away to our customers. And so you'd come in, buy a box of cigars and get a free watermelon. You know,
that's awesome.
Hey, look,
that's like a Lou Rothman thing.
Exactly. And so that's what we did. And so, you know, now we just grow whatever we can grow just to see what we can grow.
Do you grow it in the same soil as the tobacco, like in the same area, like when the crops are not there? So that's also
alongside it, or in between crops.
And that's good for the soil, right? For the tobacco.
It's good. Well, you should turn your soil over.
Right.
And so, you know, after we're finished with the cigars, we turn it all over, and then we'll, you know, regrow whatever we're growing.
Right.
So
now,
good.
Because now this is an area where I have a little bit of interest, right? You guys have cattle, right?
Yes.
So is there? I saw you made a comment on our post. Is there a FSG jerky on the way?
Well, this is what's happened. I guess, you know, Jeff reads a lot, and so he's been reading that, you know, we're starting to get meat coming from Africa. You know, they're bringing in meat because during the COVID, all these plants were closed down and we cannot process our beef the same. And that kind of made him kind of upset because, you know, he's very pro-American. And so I think we probably have about upwards of 300 cows between the different ranches. Now, generally what we do is we grow them to a certain age, send them to market, and then they use them for whatever. However, Jeff has now started thinking, well, we should start processing our own cows because we know where they come from. You know, they were born here and everything else, and it's Black Angus we have. And so that's what came across, that he wants to start processing them now and actually selling the meat. And so during that as well, we've had someone who approached us wanting to, you know, make the beef jerky. Now, they've been saying that to us for about 3 years. And so now he's seriously considering, you know, processing the meat, packing it up, and then selling it along with everything else that we produce at FSG Farms.
Good.
Wow. Very cool.
It's cool.
I always like me some good jerky, so that'd be. I can't wait for that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like jerky.
I do. I heard Jeff does too. I'm going to send him a batch.
He loves it. Are you kidding?
Yeah. I'm going to send him some of my next batch.
Yeah. So that's the next encounter, I guess. We never stop.
Hey, it never does, and you can't. You have to always keep initiating and keep reinventing yourself and keep going along those lines.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, for those who don't know, you guys have 3 stores in the Orlando area: Sand Lake, Lake Mary, downtown, and then, of course, obviously the Tampa store. And the downtown store is right next to the Amway Arena.
Correct.
And if I'm not mistaken, you guys get a lot of NBA players on their downtime that come in there.
Well, we the area where this shop is right now is quite an affluent area. And so a lot of these guys have stores, have houses right here. And then downtown, as you know, we have the stadium. So yeah, we get these kind of superstar figures coming through. And then Tampa's the same. We're right beside the Buccaneer Stadium.
Yeah.
So all of the stores get their selection. I don't know who any of them are. I'm really bad. I don't watch American sports, you know, and it's kind of a good thing, you know, because they just get treated the same as everyone else. They don't have any VIP clubs or anything like that. So they just sit, I mean, I look out my window any given day and I just assume when they're really big or they're really tall, they might be someone. But I don't go up to my customers and say, you know, what's your name and what do you do? You know, I'll go up and say, what are you drinking or what are you smoking? And, you know, converse with them. So a lot of these people that come, these guests who come, I really have no idea who they are, which is smashing. You know, they're just another cigar smoker. And so whether you're a plumber or whether you're, you know, an NBA sports star, you're sitting in the same seats. Because the thing about me is, coming from Scotland, I'm a bit cheap. And so I believe in like using every single seat. So if I'm out there and there's a seat empty and there's someone standing, I'll take them over and I'll say, hey, what's your name? And he's like, you know, whatever, Bob. And I'll say, this is Mike. That's your new friend. Sit and smoke together. Because I want every, you know. And so then it's fantastic because what I've done is I've kind of created these like masses of friends who all come in and sit together in all different walks of life. And every single, I don't care how rich you are, you still need a plumber. And so, you know, they all become friends and I absolutely love it. I love that, you know, when you come in here, you never meet a stranger, you know, and so, yeah, we do have a lot of these celebrities, but they don't act like celebrities. They just act like cigar smokers, and I love it.
Very cool. So obviously you guys have 4 bars. So what kind of strange drunken bar stories do you have about you acting crazy?
Tanya, if you don't have any, we could send Adam down there one weekend so you can have.
He'll give you plenty.
Yeah, he can give you some material for some weird bar stories.
Well, you know, there's a difference between owning a dive bar and owning an upscale cigar bar. So we don't really have, you know, back in the day when we just opened, we used to, you know, have to wheel people out here. But now, you know, there's so many different, like, you know, it's so many liabilities. And so our idea is to, you know, give you a drink, but not enough that you're going to fall out of here. You know, we've had more people falling off of stools because they've smoked a strong cigar than we have because they're drunk. And, you know, and we don't have a cheap menu. You know, we have a whole lot of high-end liquor. And so you don't see the same kind of things as you would see in a dive bar. You know, it's, you know, people come in here to drink. I mean, I had a kid, he's 30. He comes in yesterday and he's ordering, like, you know, a double Louis the 13th. You know, he's like, yeah, he's throwing down, like, you know, $700 for a drink. You know, and so we don't really have, you know, the fun stories as such. You know, so I'm sorry to disappoint you, but yeah, it's, you know, it's nice. We don't really, you know, and we have a lot of females that come as well, which is great. We have, especially downtown. Downtown, we have a lot of female cigar smokers who like to drink good whiskies, and so it's great.
Now, just to be clear, all the bars and retail locations are now open.
They're all open again, yes. We're obviously, you know, following all the mandates of 6 feet apart. The tables are 6 feet apart. You can sit up to 10 people at a table as long as they came together.
Right.
Right, and but you know, we're all adults. And so everybody here, you know, I've got some people wearing masks. I've got some people not wearing masks. You know, people are, you know, it should be kind of look after yourself and that will help look after other people. So we have hand sanitizer everywhere. You know, we've obviously got bathrooms where you can wash your hands. You know, everybody's looking at things different.
You have some of your staff wearing a mask? I saw
exactly.
Go behind you wearing one.
Exactly. I'm trying to figure out which girl it is with this mask on. But yeah, we have the lovely Angie here. So she's wearing a mask because she feels better wearing a mask.
Sure.
And I don't know, you know, I think if you're behind a bar and you're serving drinks, I think you do have to wear a mask. You know, but it's not mandatory in our store. As I said, if somebody wants to wear a mask, I'm okay with it. If they don't, they don't. The only thing I have to make sure is they're forever washing their hands.
Yeah. And,
you know, keeping everything clean.
Are your stores open normal hours?
Yes, we are now.
We're
open till 2 a.m., 12 during the week.
Is that 12? Yeah, same thing. 12 during the week, 2 a.m. So you did go back to normal hours. Was this the first week of normal hours?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. We actually, during the whole virus thing, we closed down one shop, the one downtown, which was primarily a lot of local business. So with everything being closed down, we just closed down the whole shop. Well, we didn't want anyone to lose their job, so we moved all the staff from there into different locations. If someone didn't want to work, that was okay, but most of them wanted to work. So I have a warehouse along the road here, about 3 miles. So a lot of the staff moved to the warehouse because, of course, the warehouse got busier,
right?
Because more people are ordering from home. And so now that the staff are going back to their own shops, I'm short-staffed at the warehouse. So if anyone's looking for a job, so we just kept people going. Fortunately, we never lost one member of our staff.
That's great.
Everybody got to keep their jobs. The bartenders, they were fantastic during this time. They still wanted to work, but we didn't have the bar open. So they came in here and they were painting. They made sure everything was clean. It was so good. The people come in, they're like painting walls and painting ceilings and stuff like that. So they did whatever it took just to keep themselves in a job and keep their families,
Okay. Yeah,
fed.
absolutely. Now tell us about this warehouse, because this is only, about a year and a half old, maybe?
I
2
believe
years?
it's just over a year old.
Yeah, a year and a half.
We kind of outgrew. This used to be the headquarters. So when you phoned up or you went online and you got a cigar, it would come from this actual shop. But we just outgrew it. And so we scouted around and we found like a warehouse along the road. It's about 5,000 square feet. And then fortunately, within a month, I found one right next door to it for sale. And so that is now where everything gets shipped from. And so we managed to hire a whole bunch more people to get those orders out. So when you order a cigar, it comes direct from there. Now when we get our shipments, they all go to that one warehouse, and then we have vans or trucks, as you would call them, that go to the different locations and deliver all your cigars. So yeah, it's been great.
They deliver cigars locally or to the retail stores?
Just to the retail stores.
Right.
And then everything else gets shipped out.
Right. You redistribute from your warehouse to the retail stores.
Correct.
That's awesome.
Huh.
Very cool.
How is the tourism being so low or really nil affected the stores? Has it at all?
Of course, definitely. Definitely. Of course, with the convention centre being closed, we're missing a lot of people. But I really have a strong group of locals, that come in here every day, and God bless them, so they're keeping us going, and, it is what it is. What we're kind of losing in the brick and mortar, we're making up over at the warehouse.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's had a big impact on us. And even this 6 feet apart thing, because our shop, we can't have as many customers in anymore.
Right.
And so, a lot of customers are smoking at their cars and stuff like that because there's no seats that they can sit at. So right now we're talking with our landlord, and we're hoping to expand into the parking lot outside where we can put tables, stuff like that. So yeah, it's had a big impact. I mean, right now I'm in my shop and it's relatively empty. Some people are afraid to still sit down. Some people are just coming, getting their cigars and leaving. So it has had a big impact. But what can you do? You just keep going.
That's it. Absolutely right.
110%. All right.
Do we got Coop today? Is Coop on coming on today?
Coop is
coming on.
Coop is there.
The coolest guy around, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. William Cooper joining us from a different room of his house every single week. Koopaloop, what is happening, buddy?
Hey guys, hey Tanya, how you doing? Happy birthday!
Hi, how are you? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Did I hear something? Wait, did I hear that you were 51?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, born in 69.
Wow.
Yep, good year.
Good year. I mean, you look 30, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, Coop, what's happening this week?
Well, it was a little bit of a slow week, but there's some news starting to come out of Nicaragua right now that the impacts of COVID-19 are probably worse than being reported. And, the U.S. Embassy this past week issued a warning, actually, to people in Nicaragua to pretty much be ready to shelter in place right now. Now,
Wow.
the government is reporting that there have only been 25 cases of COVID, but I guess the numbers that are being gathered indicate the numbers more like 1,200 cases and 233 deaths, and a potential cover-up by the Ortega administration here on what's going on.
Shocker.
Right. So
Absolute shocker.
I don't think any cigar companies are pushing panic buttons in Nicaragua yet, but it is something worth watching. I'm not really big on following all these numbers or anything, but the only thing I will say is that World Health Organization is showing that the data is starting to move towards Latin America right now as becoming the epicenter of this thing. So that is something to keep an eye on. On the other hand, the Honduran factories have started to reopen. So CLE has been kind of announcing their new plans, actually their new protocols in place right now. They're putting things like, distancing in at the factories right now, sanitary conditions. Races Cubanas, which makes a lot of Alec Bradley, is also reopening as well. They're doing a phased reopening. Julio Aroa's Aladino factory is also opening. So you're starting to see things in Honduras open under some control protocols right now on that end of the fence.
Interesting. Good to see Honduras opening back up and getting things going. But obviously, we're all going to have to pay attention to see what happens in the next couple of weeks with Nicaragua.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching that right now. But even in this country, Tanya talked about the barn smokers being closed because, obviously there's liability issues. That's not going to be a unique thing to Drew Estate, and I think you're going to unfortunately see a lot of the big events in the second half of 2020 canceled right now for those reasons right now, that there's just going to be a little bit of fear to have these things. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of cigar companies were basically putting out, that they were going to try to reschedule things in the second half. About a half hour after, I thought this was ironic, a half hour after Drew Estate made their announcement, I saw Cigar Aficionado was immediately tweeting big smoke events. So I'm sure that, that's going to become a concern as well right now, what's happening there.
I'll be honest with you, we're concerned about the Great Smoke in 2021.
Wow.
Look, we don't look, the fairgrounds where we do the event are taking events because we've had to talk with them because we've already had a contract and settled on a date for next year. But we just don't know what the climate is because, look, this event has to do with, I could throw the event, but if people aren't comfortable enough, because our event, a lot of people fly in from out of state. The event is, I think, has almost reached a 50-50 ratio of people in the state of Florida to people who are coming from out of the state of Florida. So if they're not ready to get on a plane and fly, and come down here and be comfortable, and if there's not a solidified treatment, forget a vaccine or or whatever, but if there's not at least solidified, because I don't think the hospitals have really figured out the treatment process. I think they've had different successes with different people in different areas, and I don't think the treatment team has been solidified. But if that doesn't happen, I don't know how successful a Great Smoke in 2021 is going to be. We're still going to move forward, doing everything we're supposed to do and making the decisions and prepping for it. But just like the PCA or the barn smoke, we're going to have a hard line date where we're going to have to make a decision and decide whether we're going through with this for sure or not.
Yeah, Abe, and I think you're going to start to see the next question come up as well is right before the Great Smoke is TPE in Vegas. That's just scheduled for the end of January. Nothing yet. I wouldn't say anyone's, but there's going to be if this trend continues, you're going to start to see that show have some questions raised. If it's coming up in late January, I think starting in the fall, you'll start to see it. But unfortunately, right now, I think a lot of the big cigar events are, this is just going to be the norm right now.
I think there's going to be a lot of factors that will give us a good foresight, right? I'm really waiting to see what happens with the educational system come August, right? How they're going to handle whether kids are going to go back to school, they're going to open it up, and eventually if they start doing sporting events, right? So if you start seeing some of those aspects of society open up and you see how people react to it, it'll give you, I think, a better barometer. But I think the next major thing will be schools, right? I'm predicting that you're going to see a lot of virtual schools for the first half of the school year come fall 2020.
One of my sons is scheduled to go back to Appalachian State. That's at least the plan that they're reopening. if that's reevaluated, it wouldn't surprise me. He finished out his semester from here for Appalachian State virtually, and I was kind of joking around. I said, you know what? I don't think the schools are ever going to need to have snow days again. Now that they've been able to do this, there should never be another snow day.
Oh, that would be so terrible for kids.
Well, they already do that in Atlanta, Georgia. They do that.
Yeah. Paul,
my nephews in Georgia, they already have that in place. When it's a snow day, they just go straight on their computers.
Oh, really?
So they were a lot. So I've got a couple of nephews at my house right now from Georgia, and that they already know. They've already got it all worked out. My kids from Orlando are doing about 45 to an hour and a half work a day. Their kids are still doing a full day in Georgia because it's all ready for them for the snow days.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't ready. I mean, I'm just going to say that now. I mean, I'm watching what my kids are doing. It's like, man, they're really getting robbed of an education currently. You know what I mean? They really are on all levels. My daughter goes to a very it's how do you describe it, Paul? It's a school of the arts, but it's a hard school to get into, right? It's supposed kids from the whole county audition to get into school, and I'm so not impressed with what they even have her doing. I mean, it's like I'm constantly. I mean, I know they get out in the morning like at 8 o'clock and like 9:30. I'm like, are you done with school? Like, yeah,
exactly.
I did my stuff. Get the hell out of here. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
we should have it. You know, Orange County are the most advanced virtual schools in the whole state, and we do have hurricanes, so our kids should be prepared. But unfortunately, they're not.
They're not. And I hope they've spent these last 2 months and all this whole summer and really figuring out how to do a curriculum should the event that they don't go back to classrooms in the fall, because otherwise it's really just going to be tragic.
Right.
You know, my son was saying that there's some, like, what I'd say hands-on type of laboratory classes and things like that. Those things haven't been really figured out yet with some of the universities. You know, if you're in a chemistry lab or something like that, where it's very hands-on and stuff. So those types of classes, I think, are being like pretty much rescheduled right now. Are just going to have to be offered at a later time, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's going to be a new world, and most schools were not prepared for it. I didn't know that about Atlanta. I mean, up in New York, it's a mess.
What I don't understand is there's a lot of people here in Florida. I mean, I actually know a lot of people who homeschool their kids. So there's a homeschooling system in place already, right? Why has it been so hard to implement the curriculum?
I don't want to be disparaging to homeschooling, but and no offense to anybody here that was homeschooled, but let's be honest. How many times have you met a homeschooled person that was normal?
I'm going to tell you.
Paul, my youngest son was homeschooled.
No.
Hold on. Listen, well, Paul likes being ignorant.
I know you didn't mean that, but...
So let me tell you something. Did you ever go to the Smoke Inn in Palm Beach Gardens?
Yeah, I've been there once.
Right next to Vic and Angelo?
Yeah, I've been to Vic and Angelo's many times.
The guy who runs that place, his name is Bart. Go talk to him. They homeschooled all their kids from youth through high school, whatever. Yeah. And hold on. All of them played outdoor sports. He was big into Little League. When you homeschool, you're allowed to play for the sports for your high school in the county you're in. They all interacted with the kids. They all went to the proms. They all went to. It just depends how. Look, Paul. It's like anything else in life. It just depends how you do it. If you're going to half-ass it as a parent, you're going to have kids who have some social issues and aren't developed. If you take it seriously as a parent and want to homeschool your kids, listen. I'm just going to say this, right? I know if I homeschooled my kids, or if Tanya homeschooled her kids, the kids would probably be 10 times better off, than going into school, right? Because there's a lot of crap they get through school, right? Yes. But, obviously we don't have that time to commit. That's why I would never even engage it, because I wouldn't half-ass it. If I was going to homeschool my kids, man, that'd be like a serious thing.
Well, homeschooling is not what it used to be. Okay, so it's not like, someone at home anymore with, now homeschooling, it's like groups, and you have like one mother who homeschools maybe 15 kids. So she's like the primary teacher. So it's not like just the parents and the child.
Okay.
And then virtual school. So we tried virtual school with my boys because we like to travel during the summer, like 2 years ago. I said, let's try this summer virtual school because I could get into that. I could travel my kids all the time and not worry about going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did try it. And so the way it works is the virtual school is they have a teacher who they can talk to all day long. They have to, get on the computer at a certain time. Now, if my sons want to do like sports, they go to the local school and they join in sports there, and they can go for socializing on a Friday and some stuff like that. So it's not like it used to be. It's not like, some weirdo with their kids at home. And so it's a whole different thing. So, I can say that it would be okay to get your kids homeschooled now because it's totally different. I mean, back in the day, 20 years ago, it was kind of more like a cult.
Right.
But now it's totally different. And, and these kids, they're never off their Xboxes. So a lot of them can't socialize anyway.
Sure.
I've got my young son, you take him out and he can hardly say hello to someone. But once he's on that Xbox, he's like jibber jabber, So kids are totally different now. They've all born with they all look like he does with a headset on, So it's a whole different generation. So homeschooling now is nothing like it used to be. It's a lot better,
Yeah,
Tanya's 100% right. Yeah,
no, absolutely. But what I don't understand is these curriculums already existed. Virtual school already existed. Why have they taken so long to reach out to implement anything of any substance? I'm telling you, my kids go to 2 different schools. Between all of them, there's no substance. I've seen no substance in the current curriculums. So
you're not the only parent either.
No, it's a joke.
No.
Ask Adam.
Yeah,
Exactly. This look into the education system brought to you by the letter M.
Adam, were you homeschooled?
No, God, no.
Yeah, you were.
No, his parents wanted him out of that house as soon as possible.
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. Like my kids' social interaction is me and my wife. That can't be good for them.
Yeah.
No, when things get better though, you'll bring them around.
Yeah.
My kids will rough them up for you. Don't worry.
There you go.
All right. So, Coop, anything else going on in the news this week?
It was a light week. The other thing is that Crown Heads has announced their Mule Kick 2020 cigar. It's once going to come out of the Ernesto Perez Carrillo Jr.'s factory. This year it's going to be a Nicaraguan Puro, and it's going to feature a wrapper very similar to the wrapper found on the E.P. Carrillo Encore, which won Cigar of the Year in 2018. But otherwise, a pretty quiet week this week in news.
Just so you know, Paul, Eric Guttermerson homeschooled all his kids.
I saw that. I want to hear that from Eric.
So I guess you think there's something wrong with Jordan.
No, because Jordan is actually very normal. Jordan is very normal.
Views of all of us here at KMA,
there's an exception. There's an exception to every rule. But Tanya's right. Like 20 years ago, when I was a kid, I'm 37. I'll be 37 on Tuesday of this week.
You've had a hard life. I'm only joking.
No, you're not. It's okay.
Wow.
She was holding back. I was expecting some jabs a little earlier in the segment.
But 20 years ago, those kids were weird. So and they didn't have what Tanya's talking about, where is that virtual setting, and the kids that I knew when I was growing up in New York in homeschool, they didn't participate in sports. They weren't a part of the community. Like they were sheltered. It was like they kept them in a hole in their house.
So. Yeah.
So,
it's different, Paul, and you're right. That's how it was because I grew up in New York too.
So that's what I'm referring to. No, Coop's not homeschooled. He homeschooled.
My youngest son was homeschooled.
Okay.
But it was for a medical reason why he had to have that. But eventually I was so impressed with the program, and my wife he just ended up graduating high school as a homeschooled, and he's a freshman in college right now. So
very good.
Yep.
Is he going crazy, like socially at school now? Like, is he wild partying and?
No, he's not like that at all. Not like that. Pretty.
I wasn't sure if he just broke out when he got into college and he was like, "Oh my God, look at this! This is awesome."
Yeah, nah. He had the one maybe who partied the most was my oldest son, I'd say. And he went to Full Sail down in Orlando.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, he graduated. Yep.
That's a good school.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, I was very impressed with that school.
Well, before we end the show, I'd like to share one of my all-time favorite Tanya stories, if possible. I actually bring this story up alone when I try to, Because look, I love Tanya because she has my wit and humor, right? She's a jabber. Like, we like to jab, right? So
Yes, we do.
if I could share this story, I don't know if you remember it or not, but do you remember?
Does it involve nudity?
No. Not,
she's getting nervous.
not that story. No, not that story. Do you remember we were having dinner? I think it was before we had kids. It was, I think, the four of us, me, Brandy, you, and Jeff. And we were at a restaurant near your Sand Lake store, and the waiter was commenting on your wedding ring. All right,
Can't remember, but go ahead.
It's funny. So this waiter is obviously, just coming to take our money, but he's engaging in this full length conversation with Tanya. Tanya's trying to be polite and talk with her friends, but he's infatuated with her wedding ring, and he keeps commenting on it. And he then says that he's engaged and he's shopping for rings and stuff like that. And then he asked her somewhat of a semi-personal question about the ring. I don't know. He said, well, how much is it, or where'd you get it, or whatever. And Tanya just deadpan looks at the guy and goes, well, do you work here or do you own the place? And dude, I almost fell out of my chair in the restaurant. I was just so brilliant at the time. I
said that to him because I remember now, it's across the road here.
Yeah.
And we were trying to converse and he just kept butting in.
Yeah.
First of all, he was like, I like your ring. And I was like, oh, well, thanks very much. And then he starts going on this whole tangent about, and I was like, just let us eat or take our order, And then that's when he said to me, well, where did you buy it? And I thought, that's weird.
It is weird.
So anyway, things like that happen all the time.
But I love the fact that she just came out so fast with that, dude. I couldn't stop laughing. I think I spit my water up at the time or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure he put something in my food before he delivered it, but that's okay. I've learned now to keep the comments until after I've been fed.
Right? I tell that to my wife all the time. I said, never getting tips before the food comes.
Right.
I tell her that all the time.
Oh
wait
my
till
God.
after the food comes. Speaking of food, any new junk food or crap food you've been eating, Coop?
Actually, Abe.
We all know you don't know jerky that well, but go ahead.
Abe's that guy again. Abe's that guy again. He just like people in the cigar industry when they lose. He's got
he's such a sore
Why
loser.
you have to be that guy with making an honest statement, dude?
Abe. Well, actually, I do have not to change. Go back to your original question. Yeah. I'm on this Vietnamese coffee kick right now, which is holy cow! So it's a very strong coffee, and you use condensed milk in it, which is like loaded with sugar, is what I'll say.
Oh, sweet, yeah. That should be great for your blood sugar content. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly. But I mean, but it's interesting because you use this little they call it a fin, and it's a drip device you put on top of your coffee cup, and you pour the hot water in, and then it drips it into your coffee cup. It is a Vietnamese coffee. I'll say is a very people talk about Cuban coffee being strong. Vietnamese coffee is pretty strong in its own right as well.
Well, because they over roast the beans. So when you posted that the other day, I was like, I've never heard of Vietnamese coffee before as being a thing.
Oh yeah.
I did some research.
In any restaurant.
They purposely over roast the beans in Vietnamese coffee. Because you're putting it in condensed milk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't. I would say you don't want to put Vietnamese coffee in a traditional coffee device. It just isn't. It's not going to
clog it up.
Yeah, and it's also but it is got some caffeine in there, is what I'll tell you. Because I was bouncing off the walls a couple times this week with it.
That can't be good for your heart.
No, but that's why I can't. You don't want to have that. I was definitely feeling an acceleration of my heart rate.
I really highly doubt that any of Coop's consumption choices are driven by what's good for his heart.
No,
I'm just putting it out there.
No, that's very true.
I don't think that's like a big factor in his thought process.
Abe, when I got my blood infection, right, I was eating healthy and everything, and I'm like, well, why? At this point, I changed my whole attitude after that because, I still got sick. So, I mean, at this point, I'm like, I want to enjoy what I'm going to eat right now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And your wife checks up on making sure the life insurance policy's paid up every week.
Yeah, look, I'll say this. She's been one, absolutely. She's, if there's she's the one basically grounding me here, so to speak, in terms of I'd be off the wall if it wasn't for her.
Adam, she'll be just fine. She'll have that 16-bedroom house to hang out in.
And all the books in the library she reads.
Those are mostly her books, except for a few exceptions. Mostly those are her books. She's an avid reader.
Not to mention the Encyclopedia Britannicas that are back there that are probably an heirloom at this point, and she can sell off for a best profit as an antique.
Actually, those were mine, and I remember when the salesman came to the door when I was growing up. Those actually came from me, yeah. And that's when an encyclopedia salesman would come to your door and sell you that stuff. And you'd have a payment plan and everything. It was like getting encyclopedias was like a big deal, like going back 30 years ago.
It was like buying a house.
Yeah, it was like, they weren't cheap to get those things.
So as we're coming toward the end of the show, I want to strike up a couple questions to Tanya before we leave. So, Tanya, what's your most frequently smoked cigar that you enjoy daily?
Well, generally it's a Davidoff Grand Cru, number 2. But I actually like these ones that we're just doing, the Tampa Davidoffs. It's a nice mild cigar, so that's what I've changed over to.
And what is your libation of choice?
It would be Lafroig at night. During the day, it's tea.
Regular tea?
Regular black tea with milk, British style.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and it's so hard to get a good cup of tea in America. They just don't know how to make tea.
What
Nothing worse
specific
than going to a
brand do you
restaurant,
go
they give
for?
you like, it's usually Lipton. That's
Okay.
as nearest to what I can get to Tetley. But there's nothing worse than into a restaurant and you ask for a cup of tea. They give you like a cup of hot water
And a
and
bag.
a tea bag,
Yeah.
and then you're having to beg for some milk, or else they'll put cream in it, and it's like the hardest thing to get over here.
Yeah.
So here, all of the staff in here know how to make me a cup of tea.
Do you
And
drink
then
your tea with milk?
Yes, I do.
So do
And
I.
then-
That's funny. Yeah, so do I.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a
and then I
traditional.
take
That's
them-
a traditional way. That's.
Yep.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
traditional way in Scotland.
Okay.
And
that's
so
how we do.
here they're trained to make me a good cup of tea. And so the part that always gets difficult is to say, how strong do you want it? And I say, I want it the same colour as me. And so they're all like this, So every
That's
time
great.
a new person starts, they get told, make sure it's the same colour as her. It can't be too dark, it can't be too light.
That's
And so you see them kind of looking at me like this, to make the cup of tea. So we do it to them all the time. But that's it. Cup of tea, straight up. And then at night, if I'm drinking whiskey, it's generally Lafroig or something along the same lines. It's got a lot of peat in it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like a peaty scotch. Good. Awesome.
I do.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get up to Orlando soon. Want to come and check out some stuff, but I really appreciate you really taking the time from your family and your business and your husband and then coming on the show. And I do apologize it took us this long. I mean, I think we came up for it. We were texting back and forth about something, and she joked about something about KMA. I said, yeah, why haven't you ever been on this show? And I think that's how it started. I just, totally.
I know, and I don't know how Paul's doing it. I'm actually thinking that when I look back at this, there's probably going to be subtitles kind of going along the bottom of the screen so that people know what I'm saying. I did have H on standby in case I had to interpret, and I have someone else here who's interpreting for the deaf, but you just can't see them. So
I do have to admit, one of the things I kind of been watching about is, when you mute your phone, because I watch the phone so I could see what the customers are watching. It closed captions. I don't know if I could show it or not, but it
What
closed
does it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it closed
that's a
captions.
new Facebook
And
feature.
It's picking you up pretty good.
there you go.
It's actually
speak
catching.
really slowly.
It's picking you up very, very good. Because I said I was wondering how that was going to handle it. But it picked you up very good. But honestly, Tanya,
Oh,
thank
good.
you. Thank you so much. I hope you had a great, great birthday.
I did.
Yeah,
Please say hi
thank
to
you.
Jeff and the boys from all of us. And I really appreciate you being on. It was awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I loved being on, and I hope to do it again sometime.
Who we got
Absolutely.
next week? We got anybody next week, Paul? Are you doing your job?
You and I have
Nah.
to talk after the show because we have a
Oh.
tentative guest that we're waiting on confirmation on.
Okay.
Where can I get some staff, quality staff like your really?
Yeah, Tanya, if you got any recommendations for a producer, we'll take them. Do you have anybody in mind? You can throw some recommendations out there. It'd be great.
Look who's
Well,
throwing.
he has to feed his new
Look who's
children,
throwing
so
the
just keep him
stones.
on.
I would have stayed very quiet on that one, Adam.
What is Adam's job? What is it Adam does?
We ask ourselves every day, Tanya, honestly.
Right.
We're not really sure. I call him the Swiss Army knife, right? It's one of those things you never really know you have until you kind of really need it for something, and then he's just the right tool for that job.
He's definitely not eye candy.
Oh,
On that note.
what did I do for that?
Well done.
I did not deserve that.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
You don't
All
like
right,
his
fellas.
bangs?
I guess he cut his own hair during this whole thing. I'm looking and I'm thinking, what on earth? I think he must have cut his hair because he couldn't get to the barbers. That's a
No,
wee bit.
That's cut. That's cut.
Is that the way it always is?
His bangs keep getting worked out from the virtual background, so they keep growing and shortening as he
I
moves.
Never
don't put any gel in on the weekends. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do that next week. Fine. Just to try and look pretty for all of the guests and hopefully Tanya.
I would
listen,
appreciate that. I'd appreciate that.
I hope all our fans and followers and listeners have a great weekend. Enjoy your Memorial Day. You know, everybody take a moment on Monday, light up, give thanks for all those wonderful, amazing people who actually served our country, and provide.
Stay safe.
Yep, be safe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tanya, thank you. Coop, we will
Thank-
talk to you next week. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
To everybody out there in Radio Land, once again, and as always, keep it lit.